Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to another episode of the Catholic League Forum. I'm Mike McDonald, Director of Communications at the Catholic League, and joining me today is Bill Donohue, President and CEO of the Catholic League. Bill, we covered a lot of topics this week, but it does seem like there's one general trend here, and what's the matter with the Democrats?
Yeah, the far left ones.
Yeah, the far left ones in particular.
Yeah.
And you had a very interesting piece out this week on the hysteria, just Democrats ripping their hair out, screaming out into the skies over abortion. And as I understand, you have a couple of favorites there, a couple of girlfriends of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris had some interesting takes. Can you respond?
Let me just first say, Mike, we understand that abortion is a sensitive topic, and most Americans are not in favor of having no limits. They're also not in favor of just, turning the clock back to where it was back in 1950. Most people understand that the early pregnancy, that's about the most tolerance you're going to get for people on abortion. The further you go into pregnancy, there's less tolerance for abortion. So people should walk carefully on this issue. And yet the Democrats here, I'm talking about the leadership here, not the average Democrat person in America, they've gone bonkers. I mean, it's way down abortion as a list of concerns with Americans. They're worried about crime, worried about inflation, the economy. But now they come out with this week. Kamala Harris gave a speech out in California the other day, and she said, no matter where I go, the feeling is, not the thinking, the feeling is one of fear. Fear. She kept saying fear. There's a lot of fear out there. I thought she was talking about the open borders and all the illegals coming in, raping people. I thought she was talking about the crime in the streets, people getting mugged here in New York City, all over the place. She wasn't talking about that at all. She's talking about we don't have greater access to abortion. That was the fear that she was expressing. But when she and Nancy Pelosi independently said that the Republicans, and I'm not a Republican, people, believe me, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, I'm independent, but when they came out and they said that the Republicans want to put women away for 5 years in prison if they have an abortion, I said, wait a minute, this is crazy. Where did this stuff come from? So I researched it. They lied. What you will find is a particular bill which said that when the baby is born alive as a result of a botched abortion, the physicians have to attend to that baby like they would anybody else. And if they don't, then they could stand up to 5 years in prison. There's an enormous difference between infanticide, killing an infant, and abortion. And they know it, unless, evidently, the only thing I conclude is that they're okay with both. But totally a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
Now, you had a favorite.
The
guy out in California, Eric Swalwell, what was his name?
Eric Swalwell. Bill, I'm the younger generation here, and he prided himself.
Nobody can tell that by looking at us. You have the hair and I have none. So unfair.
Right, and when he was running for the White House in 2020, he was saying that he was the voice of the millennials, my generation, and he's got a great campaign ad out, just pure fiction. This is ripped right out of some sort of fantasy world. That some woman, she went to get an abortion. The police show up, banging on the door.
Get the guns drawn.
Draw out the guns when the husband's like, what's going on here? And she gets arrested, walked out there. And what I find so great about this, Bill, is this is the complete 180 of reality that we're living in. Is that, as we've noted here on the Catholic League Forum, on our website, catholicleague.org, you can find all the stories about this, of how the pro-lifers, the pro-life activists, the people that are actually worried about saving lives, are the ones that are literally getting their doors kicked in some cases, by this sort of totalitarian-like mentality coming out of the DOJ.
It's a fascistic tactic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the pro-lifers are the ones that this is actually
happening to.
It's our side
being victimized. He had to make it up.
He had to make it up. There's no example of this anywhere, but we can point to dozens of
real-life
examples of where this is actually happening. So I found that just great, that this is where my generation is, unfortunately.
Well, you want to talk about generations? Mine can beat yours. We're the ones who went with the sexual revolution and burning flags in the street and calling it freedom of speech. But, some of you guys have caught up with what happened in 2020, so I think both generations are an embarrassment.
Yeah, are unfortunately a little bit lost here.
Except for people like us.
Yeah. We happy few. Now, Bill, you had another good piece out this week, and it just, again, speaks to the sort of stark contrast there is in the country right now. You had a good piece on liberal Democrats and their views on sex education, and it's just so out of sync with where everyone else is. And again, like you're saying, it's not just the average Democrat, blue-collar guy, works hard, goes to the bar, and votes for the Dems. But the true believers, the hardcore activist wing, where are they at?
Well, and that's what I liked about this one particular poll. They compared conservative Republicans to moderate Republicans, as you would expect, the moderate Republicans more in the center. Then they had independents.
Right.
Okay. And then they had moderate Democrats and liberal Democrats. Now, the difference between the liberal Democrats and the moderate Democrats, the independents, the moderate Republicans, and the conservative Republicans was enormous. In other words, they are the outliers. They are
Right.
so far out of touch with everybody else. And that's incredible. In other words, most Americans say, you want to talk about sex and gender identity and things like that? That should be done in the home. That's the primary place for it.
Right.
And when it gets into the idea of boys, I'm talking about biological boys, they think they're girls, this kind of madness. Allowing them to compete in women's sports against the girls is to eviscerate the rights of the girls, okay? I thought it was the liberal Democrats who wanted women's rights. They're the ones now destroying the rights of women. And this hasn't gotten past people like Karen Dansky and others on the left who are honest enough to say, I know what's going on with this kind of
Right.
thing. They're pushing for it. Now, when it comes to the boys, and what if the guy competes against the girls? The liberal Democrats are okay with that. Nobody else is. They believe in girls having their own girl sports. Now, can they use the shower facilities after? That 77% of liberal Democrats who are all in favor of the boys competing against the girls, only 59% of them are okay with them using the bathrooms and the shower facilities. Well, what are these boys/girls supposed to do? Why can't they shower with the girls? What are they afraid of?
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Right. Why is this the difference?
Maybe he's not allowed to shower at all. The boys don't seem to want him. So if you can compete against the girls, but then they're really saying, well, let's face it, they're really not girls. See, so this whole thing is built on a fiction, and it's the most well-educated people, the ones who stayed in school the longest, I should say. Mostly white people, by the way, very interesting. Blacks have more common sense. Hispanics have more common sense. Asians have more common sense. Working class has more common sense. The middle class has more common sense. The well-educated, wealthy white people, they're the ones to keep your eye on because they're believing this moonshine that was sold to them, indoctrinated in the colleges and universities.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, like you're saying, just to kind of throw some numbers on it. 77% of the Dems, they're okay with teaching kids in school,
Yep.
kindergartners, third graders about sex.
Right.
But the liberal Dems, but the moderate Dems, 50% of them
Yeah.
were, no, this isn't okay. The same thing as independents. So it is a very stark divide, and I do think it is very important that we do highlight. And like you said, a lot of it does come from the ruling class.
And that's the problem because they have outsized influence. The left wing people in this country tend to dominate a lot of the positions of authority and occupy the command centers of the culture.
Yeah. And speaking of outside influence, Bill, I just want to kick this one over to you. The New York Times did an obituary this week on Bernie McGuirk, a good friend of yours, and today you sort of responded to them. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. They opened the obit on Bernie McGuirk, whom I've known for a number of years, a great guy. He died at the age of 64 prematurely, a Long Island boy out of Long Beach. He was a wonderful man and very bright. Sure, he was edgy. Isn't that what talk radio is in the morning? Wasn't it invented by Howard Stern? Except Howard Stern got filthy with his obscene mouth and anti-Catholic bigotry,
Right.
followed by many other people. Bernie was never that way. They opened up 15 years ago in 2007. He and Imus, because he was a sidekick of Imus, made what can be labeled as a racist joke about some black girls from Rutgers. Okay, I'm not trying to defend it. I'm simply saying, where is the offense about the Howard Sterns and Lenny Bruce before him? What about people like Bill Maher?
Right.
We have listed Jay Leno, David Letterman, Samantha Bee,
Yeah.
Trevor Noah, Jon Stewart. There's no end to them
Yeah.
who have made viciously anti-Catholic, obscene commentary. Nobody says a word about them. In fact, we looked at the obit column on George Carlin. He died in 2008. When Bernie made his racist crack with Imus, that was the year before. You'd think they'd be concerned. They were a glowing article. He was a scathing social critic who pushed the boundaries. This is the filthy-mouthed guy that, using words we're not allowed to use. I wouldn't use them to describe certain body functions and the like. And he's a hero. All of a sudden, they find one joke that they didn't like. You know what? Because it didn't make them laugh. But you can laugh, you can be as filthy as you want about Catholic priests or anybody else in our society that doesn't make liberals laugh, and they're fine with it. They're okay with Howard Stern, they're okay with Bill Maher, they're
Right.
okay with George Carlin, all these other people, Trevor Noah, Jon Stewart, real filth. I mean, it's a disgrace. And if you want to do it an obituary, mention in the middle of it, he came under some controversy. That's one thing. They began the obituary painting Bernie McGuirk as a racist. He was no more racist than the average person is, all right? I've known lots of people who have told, quote, racist jokes and ethnic jokes, okay, and religious jokes. Not every one of them are a bigot. You want to hear that? Not every one of them are bigots. And I know a lot of people who never tell those jokes. But I also know a lot of those people who never tell the jokes who always work against black people. They want to defund the police. They don't want to have school choice. Now, the people who tell the racist jokes, many of them want to fund the police, all right? And they do favor school choice. You tell me who the real racist is. I'll tell you the racist is not the guy who's telling the joke. It's the guy who takes his heel and he puts it into the face of the black man and says, you are not really black unless you go with us, like the Congressional Black Caucus, which is now pushing for a white Democrat to defeat a black Republican because this woman happens to be a conservative. See the game that's being played? We're on to it at the Catholic League, people. It all comes down to politics. It's not about race. It's not about anatomy. It's not about ancestry. It's all about politics. Bernie McGuirk was a great man, and I stand by him.
Absolutely. All right, Bill, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up this week. But dear viewer, if you're interested in any of the things we've talked about, anything else that's going on at the Catholic League, do check out our website, catholicleague.org. We'll have a link in the description below. And as always, if you can give this video a like and subscribe, that would greatly help us beat Big Tech algorithm. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.